It's time for some randomness. What's up? I hope you guys. So today is a bit weird because I'm just gonna randomly recommend you some random books. So there is no particular reason, there is no particular genre, categories or whatever, just I'm going through my shelves and telling you to read that book, and that's pretty much it. So it's not like my favorite of all times, it's not my adult fantasy favorite of all times or whatever. I have other videos planned, like really adult epic fantasy, because I've been loving them recently, and also like old favorites, and also like port fantasy and so many other things. But today I just wanted to give you some random recommendations because they don't, it's not a particular like category, particular video, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I always recommend this is not a surprise, so I just have to mention them, but I will shut up now but to read them. My first random recommendation will be for that duology. I hope there is more books, I'm not sure, but the first one is Twice Dead, and then it's Trinity of Bones by Caitlin Seal. So basically what you have is a main character is living with her dad on a boat because he's sailing from one place to another in order to sell things or whatever, because he's some kind of merchant. And one day she's going on a mission for her dad. She's so happy, she wants to go there, she wants to do the best she can, etc. And she gets killed and brought back because there is some kind of necromancy allowed in some places, and in some places it's absolutely forbidden. So she becomes part of something bigger than what she was at the very beginning, and it's so intriguing, so unique. I loved everything about it. So I am sad that no one is talking about that series. So here is your first random recommendations if you're looking for some YA fantasy no one is talking about. Then another recommendation is like if you like short stories, if you like tales, fairy tales, whatever, I recommend that collection. So I started with Russian Tales. Was it with Russian Tales? No, I feel like I started that collection with Celtic Tales that I got from Clio. And then I bought the Russian Tales for the Slavicathon that I'm hosting in December, that I hosted in December last year, and will happen again this year. And I also got Tales of Japan by Clio. So it's all like very beautiful. You have like short like tales, original tales with like illustrations and everything. It's so beautiful, and you get to know more about the cultures. So I would definitely recommend them. I've read Celtic and Russian tales. I have not read Japan, so the Tales of Japan. So I still need to read that one, probably in May for a Readathon. But yeah, so I would definitely recommend these. If you're looking for an Anastasia Retelling, I would recommend Romanov by Nadine Brandes. I feel like this is the best Anastasia Retelling I have ever read because it is so close to what actually happened. So it is like what I would call a historical fantasy, and also the fantasy aspect of it comes like halfway through, like past halfway through the book. So it's like pretty late in it. But I still really enjoyed everything about that book. It's tiny. So Anastasia Retelling, this one. If you're looking something with dragons, I would obviously recommend A Natural History of Dragons. Now, this is not like my favorite of all time. I should stop picking up like my favorites or whatever. But this is not about dragons that you usually see in fantasy books. This is about studying dragons. This is about a main character who wanted to be a naturalist, to study the dragons in their habitat, like, and to just learn about them. It's so different, but it's also about feminism, you know, wanted to do things and not being like stopped by the society, just, you know, going with your vibes, with your guts, etc., being hated by some but being admired by others, and so like breaking all those society rules or whatever. So I would really recommend that series. It's so good, and it is like memoir style. So you have our main character who is actually now an old lady, and she's very sassy, and she's telling us her story. And all the other books are actually on Scribd, and they're amazing. If you're looking for a good ace representation, so asexual, I would recommend you this one. So Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland. I am ace, and I consider that one really good, because I loved how asexuality was actually approached and talked about, and how it was like talked about like through the main character's point of view, but also sometimes it was a bit weird because it was like different from my perception when I was like a teen, a young adult, or whatever. So there were some times where we're like, oh, that's a bit too much, but actually I don't know, that's just because I have not experienced it that way. But I actually adore the representation in this one, but also I adore the story, which is basically the main girl and her mom goes in people's sleeps in their soul. So they're visiting people's soul when they're sleeping, and there is always like a good door that allows you to enter that person's soul, but there is also a bad door that you cannot touch. You cannot touch that door, you cannot enter it. And that's what the mother keeps telling her daughter, which she's not gonna listen to. So it was just so good. I loved it. I loved it so much. If you loved Annihilation and the cosmic horror aspect of it, you might enjoy this one, The Hollow Places. It is also a cosmic horror, which is a subgenre I didn't know existed. I didn't know I loved. And this is basically the story of a girl who she went through the wars and she's moving back to her mom, but she doesn't want to go there. So her uncle is like, yeah, come to my place. And he's some kind of, I don't know how you can call it, but he has a museum, and in that museum you have weird shit, like taxidermy animals. How do you say that? Like stuffed animals, like stuff with, you know, taxidermy, etc., etc. Very like full of curiosities and weird things or whatever. And she's there with her friends. Something happens because there is some kind of portal, because yes, it's portal fantasy and cosmic horror. And she goes there, and it's not Narnia. It's honestly not Narnia. And there is a lot of reference to pop culture like Narnia, etc. So if you don't like those, don't read it. But it's really weird. I was creeped out. We read it for the Howling Pack. The majority of us actually enjoyed it. I would highly recommend it. It's weird. It's really weird. If you're a nerd like me, and if you enjoy like astrophysics or whatever, I have a recommendation for you. So this one, which is Brief Answers to the Big Questions by Stephen Hawking, but also all the books by Neil deGrasse Tyson. Astrophysics for People in a Hurry, for instance. I listened to the other books. They were all amazing. I want to buy them all. But I really recommend that one because I personally have enjoyed it. Very polarizing, like people are or for or against, or just like have opinions or whatever, because it can touch to gods, aliens, etc., etc. But Astrophysics for People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson makes astrophysics very understandable and very easy to actually, you know, just get the concept of it, which is like just something I find fascinating. And also, like, when someone can make you understand in big something that is as complex as astrophysics, it means that they know what they're talking about, they're experts, and they love what they're doing. And I feel that Neil deGrasse Tyson is absolutely amazing at that. I love his voice. I would highly recommend the audiobooks. And yeah, if you're a nerd, you might enjoy those books. So this book is something that's outside of my comfort zone because I never read of that genre, but I got the book in a box and I read it, and it made me feel. So this is Saving Megan by DJ Palmer. This is basically, wait, what's the name of the disease? Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Munchausen, I'm not sure how you said it, but basically it's like when parents are making up the diseases that their kids have and making them sick in some way. So they're just like sure that their kids are sick, but they're absolutely fine, but they just insist on going to the doctors, etc., etc. And that's what we're reading about. Apparently, our main character is really sick. Her mom is trying her best to make her feel better, but everyone at one point is sure that she's making everything up and that she's making her kid sick. And you're reading about it, and I was just like, oh my god, this was just so good. But at the same time, it was intense, so I had to take breaks in between some chapters because it was really intense. And I actually enjoyed it and would recommend it if you looking for something different. I would also recommend that middle grade. I've just read the first book, obviously, but this is The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane by Julia Noble, which is basically the story of a main character who doesn't know her father. She lives with her mother, who is a very famous psychiatrist, I believe, and she travels the world talking about the education, how to handle your kids, how to make them feel happy, etc. You know, education, like kids education, whatever. But she doesn't have that much time for her kids, so she's going to boarding school where her father went, actually. And the day before she goes there, she takes a flight to go there from Massachusetts to England, I believe. She finds something at her house that she will bring with her to that school, and lots of mysteries are happening, and I actually really enjoyed reading it. It was so easy to read, so easy to enjoy, loved everything about it. And of course, I'm gonna recommend you to read that one as well, because I feel like I fell in love with John Gwynn's writing style and ideas and everything, and I cannot wait to read more about his world, because he wrote another series about the Vanished Lands that's happening way after this one, and there is another series, so The Shadows of the Gods, that you have probably seen. No, The Shadow of the Gods, not the Shadows of the Gods, The Shadow of the Gods. And it's just so good, like the characters, the different point of views, everything happening here had a meaning, had a purpose, and when everything just goes together, it's just like brilliant. Of course, you have a wolf in it, or some kind of wolf, and you have our main character who is not a hero to begin with, but he becomes one. But what is a hero? What is a prophecy? Do you have to follow the prophecy? Do you have to follow your guts? What do you do? Who do you believe? How to trust your family, the friends you need to help, or the people you don't know you need to help, what to prioritize. There are just so many things going on that made me fall in love with that series. I would really recommend all 4 books. And what I love about that series is that also at the very beginning of each book, you have like a summary of who is who and what their relationships to others is. But keep in mind that it evolves. So the first, like at the beginning of the second book, it talks about where they were at the end of the first book, and then it changes because it's gonna avoid spoilers, if you know what I mean. Heartbreaking because of some things that happened, but just so beautiful. I was so scared when reading it, but I enjoyed myself so much. I think that's it with the random recommendations. I could recommend you more books, but I just wanted to recommend you randomly some random books because I keep repeating myself and random is in the sentence. I'm sorry. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more of random recommendations, let me know. But if you want specific recommendations like adult fantasy or YA or like sci-fi or middle grade or whatever, sport fantasy, para fantasy, anything, let me know down below and give me one random recommendation. But yeah, well, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to be a part of the pack. Talk to me in the comment section as usual, and until next time, take care, Bye.